The state of Arizona is delighted to partner with OurCrowd and to be involved with this mobility section. I want to, first of all, commend John for building this amazing organization, and Jonathan Fuchs, if he's here, and for all the support that the OurCrowd team has given to the state of Arizona. I just want to say, who here watched the Super Bowl this year? I woke my kids up. We watched at 3 a.m. Arizona has hosted the Super Bowl 3 times, and we're going to host the Super Bowl in 2023. But I think I can say that the OurCrowd Summit is the Super Bowl of Israeli high-tech and innovation, without a doubt. And with the booming high-tech sector, the number of innovations going on in Arizona and in Israel, the Governor Ducey set up the Arizona-Israel Trade Office. Basically, Arizona is referred to in America as the startup state, and Israel we know as the startup nation. And so nothing better than putting together the startup state and the startup nation to collaborate and bring innovations. Specifically, I want to just spend 2 seconds on the areas that we saw in the video. The governor has made it a priority, and what makes Arizona such an attractive state is with people fleeing the Bay Area for the high cost of living and with the regulatory hurdles that are facing other states, the governor made it a priority that Arizona is open for opportunity. And he said in his State of the State address that any regulation that has to be brought forward, they have to remove 3 regulations. I like to see other places in the world adopt that kind of philosophy. And so today, we put a special focus on some of the areas that you've seen through creating regulatory sandboxes, one on the fintech space, in the prop tech space, and the digital health area. So for companies that you meet or hear, we have a booth. We'd love to learn more about your companies. But specifically, I want to talk about mobility today, because mobility is an area where the governor has put, and the Arizona Commerce Authority has put a specific priority on. 2 years ago, the governor set up an executive order creating what's called the Institute for Advanced Mobility. And many of you have seen and read about some of the advances that have happened inside the state of Arizona. Intel's 2 largest areas in the world are Israel and Arizona. So Mobileye is doing a lot of work in Arizona, and also a lot of the IoT is happening inside Arizona with Intel. But what a lot of people may not have remembered is that when Google, based in California, wanted to move their mobility fleet, their Waymo project, they moved it to Arizona. The governor personally went out to greet them with a whole team from the Arizona Commerce Authority to greet the Waymo fleet and welcome them to Arizona to do testing. And so Arizona is a place where you can come, find a supportive environment, and also, more importantly, do proof of concepts and test with the university infrastructure. So without really further ado, I'd like to focus on just a couple of areas where you can come in. Arizona State University, 140,000 students in one university. That's about 4 universities in Israel combined inside one place. And the opportunities there are endless. It's ranked the most innovative university for 5 years in a row. And so we would be happy to have companies come in, test their projects, test their products, and work with us in the state of Arizona. What I would like to tell you is that how many here are from Israel? So the state of Arizona has trade offices only in Mexico, its largest trading partner, and the only trade office that they decided to open outside of Mexico is in Israel. And so we can feel a sense of tremendous pride and satisfaction that the governor and the state has decided to invest resources and energy to bring companies and facilitate trade between Arizona and Israel. We have a booth outside in the Pincus Hall. I want to acknowledge the mayor of Yuma, who's here from Arizona, Doug Nichols, first time in Israel, and the CEO of the Arizona Chamber of Commerce, Glenn Hammer, who's come here, who represents all of the industry and companies across the state, and our new colleague, Joseph Benda, who's joined our team here. And we have a booth outside at the Pincus Hall. I'd love for you to come. For some of you, there's some brochures. If you can take a look at some of the work that's happened just in the last few years between the state of Arizona and Israel. We want to see us get to, there are about $740 million of trade going on between the 2 states, and we want to see that get to $1 billion in the next 2-3 years. And we're going to only do that with your help and with facilitating bilateral trade. So please like us. We just set up, this office was set up 2 months ago, and we're working pretty hard to work with every company that wants help. We're here to help. We're here to help facilitate resources, and we're here to facilitate introductions to all of the corporate environment inside. And if you have a calendar out, please put the dates out. to join us for the Unmet Challenge. 120 VCs and private equity are coming into Arizona. They'll be in Scottsdale. Beautiful weather, beautiful time to come in May. And we'd love for you to come join us. You can find out more. We'll put it up on our social media. So we have a Twitter handle and also on Facebook and LinkedIn under Arizona Israel Trade. And so really, I'd like to call up the panelists and thank you very much for coming today and for learning more about what we can do together. Toda rabba.
That is not the right way to get up. Looks better. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. All right, we've got a great panel today, but before we do that, it's a long and winding road to autonomous driving. How many people here have taken an autonomous car ride so far? Whoa, that's a lot. What, Las Vegas? CES? All right. That's more people than I expected. It was maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I had dinner with the CTO of a large American auto manufacturer who will go unnamed. But what he said was, by about 2020, we will have self-driving cars on the road that we will sell to drivers. Now, here we are in 2020. I don't think anybody owns a self-driving car just yet. So we've got a bit of a problem there. Something went wrong in the industry. So we'll talk about that today. So we've got 5 great panelists who will talk to us for a couple of minutes each about what they're seeing as the big challenges and opportunities in self-driving. And after that, we'll have a discussion among all of us about what we can do better. So without further ado, let me bring up our first speaker, Mikael Ronnholm, the head of innovation strategy and ideation at CEVT. That's the China Euro Vehicle Technology Company. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very exciting to be here and talking very exciting subjects. But first, I want to make an introduction to CEVT and what CEVT is. CEVT is the R&D center and innovation center in the Geely Group. And Geely is one of the largest OEMs and car manufacturers in the world. We serve a lot of different brands. Lynk & Co. is a new brand that will be launched in Europe this year. You know Volvo Cars, obviously. We have the performing racing brand Lotus. We also have Terrafugia, the flying car, and we have the flying drone taxi company from Germany. So we serve all of those brands with technology and innovation. Now, CEVT has a vision to be a world-leading innovation center. And we are focusing on future mobility solutions for different tomorrow, using disruptive technologies. And obviously, self-driving and autonomous cars is on our agenda. We see 4 things that needs to happen for autonomous driving. One is obviously technology and innovation. The other thing is policy development. Now we're talking about cross-nation policy development. We need to remove a number of blockers, regulator blockers, across nations. The third thing is collaboration between the large players in the market, creating standardizations. We have some examples where OEMs are starting to collaborate, but we need to basically create an open source for autonomous driving. And the last one is consumer acceptance. I don't think personally that we are in a position where individuals will accept that a computer takes a decision of life and death. So we need to use technology to influence all of those 3 other elements of autonomous driving if it's going to happen. Well, CEVT has a technology agenda like everyone else. And when it comes to autonomous drive, we are focusing on 5 things. One is sensor technology and developing sensors. The other one is data fusion. And the third is AI machine learning. The fourth is cybersecurity, and the fifth is vehicle-to-vehicle communication, or vehicle-to-anything communication. And that is one of the reasons we are investing very heavily in the best innovation hubs in the world. We are here in Israel because this is a super hotspot for those 5 technology areas. Now I'm very proud to announce that we are now focusing even more on innovation in Israel. So we have a permanent residence here. Lior Sena, is now representing us here in Israel full time. We have an office in labs. There you can find us. We are establishing a prototyping establishment. Now I may be a bit early, but we hope to have a test car here in Israel for April, where we can do autonomous testing. And we are also an ambition to be faster in startups when it comes to startup journeys. So we have established a process where a startup within a week can start working with CEVT on autonomous technologies. Finally, we have a fast track for innovation. We will meet up with not only the management at CEVT, but also the management and key stakeholders for all of the Geely brands I previously mentioned to push new technologies for autonomous driving to the market. So I very much look forward to do magic in Israel. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second speaker is Christian Weber, the Head of Advanced Engineering for ADAS at Continental. Thank you.
So the title for today, for this hour, is Make Autonomous Driving a Reality. From a Tier 1 perspective, I would phrase it the other way around. Avoid to do it, to bring it to reality. Not that we want to avoid it, it's just what mistakes we can do. So for example, when you look on the complete technology portfolio necessary for autonomous driving, you start with on the early stage with sensors, with radar, camera, lidar, with fusion, with high performance computing. Then you have cybersecurity, simulation, validation, very big part, and so on and so on. I don't want to bore with all this list. The list is extremely long of what is necessary for autonomous driving. And a mistake could be, for example, if a company tries to do all that on its own, to cover all the technology fields and the subjects just by its own. So therefore, to concentrate or to collaborate with companies who are concentrated and very focused on technology, like startups, they do one single thing, but nothing else in a quite high speed, what often the big Tier 1s cannot do in that speed, or they have to focus also on other stuff. So possibility to collaborate with these small focused companies, not only to buy them, it could be an option, but to integrate their technology portfolio in a Tier 1 portfolio would help us then at the end to come to that reality. It was told a long and windy road. It will still take a long time before we see mass market and affordable autonomous driving. Even we can see autonomous cars right away. But to produce thousands or 10,000 a day is something different than to produce 100 in a year or so. So I'm looking forward for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I was really looking forward to getting my autonomous car by this year, but it doesn't seem to be happening. A long time, I think, we'll have to wait. Our next speaker is Jim Adler, the founding managing director of Toyota AI Ventures. Come on up.
Good morning, everybody. Just so that, for those that don't know, Toyota AI Ventures is Toyota's first and only dedicated venture capital fund. It's a $200 million fund focusing on early stage investments in AI, data, cloud, autonomy, mobility, and robotics. Toyota very much believes that machines will continue to amplify the human experience. Hit the accelerator on a Lexus coupe or take a 4Runner off-road and you feel like your capability is amplified. And we think machines are going to continue to do that. So the fund is really focused on exploring what's next for Toyota and how these machines will amplify the human condition. And we recognize that the world is a complicated place and large companies often don't know what the future will bring, but startups in many senses are experiments in the marketplace. There's a famous prize-fighting boxer in the United States, Mike Tyson, who said, everyone has a fight plan until they get punched in the face. Well, Steve Blank is a startup guru, and he said, similarly, that no business plan survives the first contact with the customer. And startups are very good at contacting customers, figuring out what works and what doesn't work, pivoting quickly, moving fast, and really trying to understand where the technologies will unlock value in the market. And so we want to find these teams that are changing the world through technologies and new business models. We've done 27 deals to date. We move pretty quickly. We try to move at the speed of startups. We are structured as a dedicated venture capital fund, so we believe that financial return actually precedes strategic return. Unlike many corporate investors, our view is when you invest early stage and for the long term, everyone around the table needs to be focused on financial success of the company. Then if the company is strong financially, then they will be strategically potentially valuable to Toyota. And I think that is the right chemistry for success. So I know we're going to talk a lot about autonomy and why we're waiting so long for it, which I'm looking forward to. But if any of those that were at CES, Toyota announced this woven city idea, which is about connected and smart cities. And we announced our second call for innovation, which is actually a call to find and fund startups that are innovating in these connected and smart city areas. So that are focusing on congestion and pollution, accessibility, construction. And so I have a brochure up here, or just go to our website, click call for innovation. Send in me your materials. I'm pretty much useless. If you upload your stuff to the website, we have people looking at these applications on a rolling basis. And if you've taken less than $3 million, we're looking to invest up to $2 million in these kinds of technologies. So our view is the people in this room are going to figure out the future. We want to be a partner along that journey, and we look forward to working with you. Thanks.
Thank you. So now we've heard from VCs, Tier 1s, OEMs. Let's talk about the startups as well.
Hi, everybody. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Yakir Machluf. I am the head of automotive and mobility at OurCrowd. OurCrowd, you are all very much familiar with what we do, I guess. That's what brought you here. But today, you probably not have known that OurCrowd today is the most active investor also in the mobility space. We've already invested over $100 million into the mobility space in Israel and abroad, into 17 portfolio companies, and one early stage mobility fund. All in all, we're invested in about 45 portfolio companies, again, Israel and abroad. And we're actually diversify our investments across different areas and different points along the stack towards autonomy. And we are constantly figuring out where is the industry going, what are the current trends, and this is actually a part of it. I'm very appreciative of having all of you join us today. We actually have a full house here, so I'm really excited about this. Anyone here that would like to be in touch with OurCrowd, if you're an entrepreneur or an investor or a multinational that would like to be involved more in the Israeli innovation scene, please see me afterwards. I'm going to be here, and you also can catch me outside. I would like to also introduce the two of the next speakers. We have two portfolio companies of ours that we think are that have a great solution towards expediting the arrival of autonomous vehicles, and after that we can progress to the discussion. Our two companies are VizibleZone and Foretellix. VizibleZone are a company developing vehicle-to-pedestrian communication. I would say the missing link in promoting autonomous driving. And, of course, we have Foretellix, as I said, developing a validation framework for autonomous driving. Again, one of the key and crucial parts to bring forth autonomous driving. So, again, without any further ado, I want to bring up the next speaker, Shmulik Barel, co-founder and COO of VizibleZone, to take the stage.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So, yeah, my name is Shmulik. I'm the COO and co-founder of VizibleZone. So, this was Bob Swan, Intel CEO, a month ago in the CES, saying that driving in Jerusalem is a chaos. I think you probably all couldn't agree more after coming here in the morning through vehicles. And we believe that it's true, but that walking in Jerusalem is actually much more chaotic. And if you would take a challenge and go out of this building for 15 minutes and go and try to travel the streets, so you'd probably be very minded not to be hit by a vehicle. So I would like to take these few minutes to discuss a little bit about what does it mean to be a pedestrian in the area of autonomous vehicles. We are always talking about the vehicles and the vehicle-to-vehicle, but how would we feel as pedestrians when we walk down the streets in Jerusalem and see a driverless car driving just next to us? So I guess you're probably familiar with the Uber self-driving crash on March 2018 in Arizona, a sad event. Unfortunately, a pedestrian was killed, Elaine. And when the crash was investigated, it was found out that the self-driving car of Uber didn't identify Elaine as a pedestrian. It classified her as something like other. So the car didn't stop, didn't brake on time, and even if we would classify her as pedestrian, the car didn't have enough time to brake. This is the movie. Yeah. So it caused a lot of impact on the autonomous vehicle industry, and not only on the industry itself, but on us as pedestrians, as people walking down the streets and seeing driverless cars next to us. I'll go very fast on this slide, but when we're talking about vehicle-to-vehicle technology, there are huge challenges. But just think what is to solve the vehicle-to-pedestrian technologies: much more objects on roads, dynamic routes, and more than that, humans are humans. They cannot be programmed like vehicles. So we suggest a fresh thinking to the automotive industry, and we think that we should move from detection to prediction. The existing detection technologies cost a lot. They don't provide an hermetic solution for the problems of safety on roads, and we should add another layer on top of these technologies, which is focused about prediction. So, we are suggesting to create in areas where both pedestrians and vehicle have situational awareness. Actually, a recent study by the US Transportation Department said that the right technology to protect pedestrians on road could reduce more than 80% of pedestrian fatalities. This is an amazing number, and this is what we are striving for. Anyone here does not carry today a smartphone? Okay. So we suggest a solution that takes smartphones and turns them into life-saving devices. We are building an AI solution which resides on mobile devices and identify, analyze, and even predict pedestrians' behavior on roads. We predict the behavior 3 seconds ahead to give an advanced alert to vehicles on roads to be able to avoid high-risk situations. Our engine is a very small software-only solution which resides on mobile devices and can be easily integrated into any third-party application like mass mobility solution, smart cities applications, closed compounds, and eventually to be an integral part of smartphones by integrating them through mobile manufacturers and mobile operators. By that, we have the ability to learn pedestrians and to alert vehicles in advance. The integration on the vehicle side is also very easy. It's either through the mobile device of the driver or with an easy integration, software-only integration, into the existing facilities of any standard vehicle out there today. Our technology is ready to meet the market, and we can take any standard mobile phone and any standard vehicle. We don't require any hardware changes to neither one of them. We are already operating in several smart cities around the world, and we see an amazing use cases for our technology, not only for the collision detection between vehicle and pedestrian, but think of what kind of things you can do in terms of overall road safety for pedestrian when you have a real-time understanding on what is going on. So what I would like to show you now is a very short video of our technology. This is a single Android solution deployed on standard smartphone, which was very easily compatible into Android Auto platform. Our technology can detect, predict, and detect pedestrian even if there is no line of sight between the vehicle and the pedestrian, or the autonomous vehicle, or the pedestrian, the driver, and the pedestrian. So what I would like to challenge you is to try to look for the pedestrian before you see the indication on the system. So in this specific use case, we have managed to identify the pedestrian and alert the driver 2 seconds ahead, even when there was no line of sight. We are just demoed our technology yesterday to a lot of people. We are welcome anyone who would like to go into any standard car, take a mobile device, put our software on it, and just let it work. We believe it's a cost-effective solution that can revive the stagnation in the autonomous industry, and to allow such cost-effective solution can expedite the ability of autonomous vehicle to reach the mass market. Thank you.
Thank you, Shmulik. The next speaker is Roy Fridman from Foretellix. Please, Roy.
Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here in this incredible event. My name is Roy. I run the business in Foretellix, and I will try more to focus on the problem and then give you a little taste of what we do. But if you want to learn more, please come over to our booth or, to hear more. Think about the challenge of autonomous vehicles, or even, not full autonomy, not a car that has no steering wheel that drives alone. Think about a small challenge of giving a car a little bit of autonomy, just changing a lane or something like that. That takes the liability from the world of the OEMs and tier ones, from the humans that drive the car to the OEMs and tier ones. And the meaning for that, or what we are talking about here, is basically changing the number of tests that you need to test from, I don't know, 1,000 to millions, because we as drivers can handle a lot of different scenarios, road scenarios that can happen to us. But does an autonomous system or an ADAS system can handle the same kind of different scenarios? We are talking about millions of different scenarios that the developers of the autonomous system need to take into consideration and basically test. And that is a huge, huge challenge. How do you verify hundreds of millions of scenarios? How do you think of all of the cases that can happen to you? We have a good friend in Volvo Trucks that says that the verification of the autonomous system is actually harder than the development of the technology itself. And the biggest barrier that I guess some of my esteemed colleagues will also agree, the biggest challenge to actually deploy those autonomous functions and deploy the autonomous vehicle is safety. How do you prove that the autonomous system can handle all of those different scenarios? There are many other challenges. I'm not saying that there aren't, but safety is the #1 challenge, to convince the regulators, to convince the people that this autonomous system is actually able to handle all of those different, different situations, road situations. Now, the autonomous industry today, or the automotive industry today, come from a certain traditional approach on how to test things. They are driving a lot, they are simulating a lot, and they are counting miles. That's the way that currently, let's say, the metrics or the thinking of this industry is on how to validate the safety of these systems. And this is not the right metric, we believe. The autonomous industry, or the automotive industry, needs tools and methodologies that can handle complexity and scale of this very, very big challenge, and they need to change or look at different metrics in order to prove that the autonomous vehicle is safe. The industry is already starting to kind of digest these thoughts, and different companies like the CEO of Aurora that develops autonomous systems already said that the metrics that are developed today are not the right metrics. For example, if you drive on the road on a desert for 100 kilometers, does this equal driving 1 kilometer in a dense city street? Probably not. You will encounter a lot more situations when you drive inside a city than in a desert when you have no pedestrians and no other cars. So counting the number of miles is the wrong metric, and what you do need to move to is a different approach called quality of coverage, or trying to take all of these different scenarios that can happen to an autonomous vehicle and try to capture it. Now, this challenge, or the place that we are coming from, or trying to, let's say, widen the scope or the view of the current automotive industry, we come from an industry that already have dealt with scale and complexity, that already dealt with the need to validate hundreds of millions of scenarios, and that's the semiconductor industry. Semiconductors, chips, are very, very small, but inside each chip, there are billions of transistors, billions of scenarios that you need to validate. And what happens if you make a mistake in a chip? You need to throw it away, because you already made silicon, so you need to go back to the design and do it again, and it costs the company millions to hundreds of millions of dollars. This facilitated an evolution in the semiconductor industry from very basic verification methodologies and tools into very advanced metric-driven, coverage-driven verification methodologies. Foretellix's founders have actually invented the way that you verify semiconductors today. If you go to Intel, to Qualcomm, to all of those big companies and ask how to do it, a lot of it stems from the work that Foretellix as founders has already done. And what we are trying to do today in the automotive industry is move and adapt these tools and methodologies that fit scale and complexity and help the industry evolve so you can give the car autonomy and feel safe to deploy this autonomous function. If you want to know more about the technology itself and how we do it, you're welcome to visit our booth or contact me personally. I wanted to more focus on the problem itself, the solution we believe that we can contribute to. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. We've got about 15 minutes to talk about what's happening in the industry here. So just to get started and maybe set the stage a little bit, what do you guys think is the biggest roadblock that's ahead of autonomous driving, level 5 autonomous driving right now? I don't know who wants to take it. Mikael, maybe you want to take that first?
Okay. Hello.
Give it a try. Let me try.
For me, it's complexity.
I can try. 1, 2, 3. Did that work? Yes. All right, there we go. That was my mic. That doesn't help. Can we have another mic up here? Or the podium in the worst case.
One, two, three.
We'll have self-driving cars, but work on microphones.
And I think this is exactly my point. Complexity, I think that is the big issue. And we are talking about it, and don't quote me on this, but I think that a car today contains more than 100 CPUs, running software, application, logarithm, etc. And every change we do on any of those will affect the 99 others. Now we're talking about one car. And when we are going into autonomous, our car needs to cooperate with other cars that also contains 100 computers running softwares. Every update in a Honda will affect how that Honda operates with my Volvo or my Lynk & Co. And we do updates on softwares, thousands of them every day. And every update may have an effect on the others. And that, I think, is one of the biggest blockers. So we need standards across industry and across nations to handle this. That's my view.
Jim, do you want to take that first? I think you had a response to that, and we'll pass it on to Chris.
So everyone asked the question, when, right? Frederic, you had, when? When are we going to get this? And I think there's a framework that a lot of people have been thinking about. One of our portfolio companies is May Mobility. Ed Olson has this Medium post. And let me just walk you through a little bit of the numbers. The bottom line is 2035 is when these machines may become as safe as people. Now you can argue about a lot of the assumptions, but it's not happening next year. And Toyota, we've been pretty sanguine that this technology can help driving be safer. Most problems happen when drivers are drunk or distracted or drowsy, and these systems can really help during those times. But if you think about self-driving technology, and to your point, Roy, quality notwithstanding, in 2004, Google's first started doing self-driving technology. They were disengaging one time every 10 miles. In 2018, they were disengaging one time every 10,000 miles. So that, if you extrapolate that, and you have to make this one interesting equivalence, is that if a disengagement is equal to, say, a death, like if you didn't disengage, someone would die, well, how good are humans? Turns out humans are very good drivers. One fatality every 100 million miles. Okay? So just today, these machines are 0.01% as good as humans. Okay? And so if you extrapolate out that curve from one disengagement every 10 miles to one disengagement every 10,000 miles, 2018, you get to 2034, one disengagement every 100 million miles. Now, the question is, will we really accept that a machine is as good as a human? I think we could argue that a machine needs to be better than a human. And I think this is the social acceptance, the consumer acceptance that some of us talked about. So that's a framework. It's not the only framework, but it gets to this idea that, well, it ain't happening next year, folks. And we have a lot of work to do. And certainly, breakthrough technologies, reduced operating domains can actually bring this technology to life faster. So May Mobility, this portfolio company, has fixed route, slow-moving shuttles. Well, that's a simpler problem. We can do the simpler problem safely. But can you do the complexity that we've talked about next year? It's going to be very difficult.
Humans are great drivers, but they're not patient.
No, they're not.
Especially in Israel.
Yeah, there's another aspect for, you just mentioned it, for human driver versus machine driver. It's the legal aspect. So I take the numbers from Germany. There, last year or 2 years ago, there have been 3,000 people killed in traffic during the whole year. So if now we change from human driver to automatic driver, and the responsibility is on the tier 1 and on the OEMs, and we reduce it from 3,000, for example, to 500, what would be a great achievement. I think we will not get the reward for that. We would get the blames why there are still 500 and more blames that you, with your technology and with your cars, you killed 500 people. So this could be, from a social aspect or from a legal aspect, also a roadblock. Coming back to your question, what could be a roadblock?
I want to touch on 2 points that were already mentioned here. One of them is about the driving and how many miles. So I know about a RAND report that talks about the need to drive 5 billion miles in order to prove that the autonomous driver is 20% better than a human driver. Now, think about this number for a second. We're talking about, I don't know, 500 years of driving, or I don't know how much with a fleet of cars. Now take a second and think what happens when you issue a software update. Do you need to redrive all those 5 billion miles? What will you do? What is the right way to look at this problem? Is the thinking driving and driving, or do we need a different approach that is more around quality, around coverage, around methodologies that already exist in other industries that allow you to verify a chip in 1 year instead of 10 years, to allow you to issue or tape out to silicon a chip with no bugs instead of having many bugs and then costing a company a lot of money. I think we need to widen our view and look at other industries to support the automotive industry in this very big challenge. The car, as you said, is becoming more and more of a complex creature that has hundreds of millions of lines of code, many 70 or 100 ECUs. And that becomes a very, very complex, probably one of the most complex machines humans has ever made. And we need to look at that, at this machine, as something much more complex than the car that we know today. That's one point I wanted to touch. The second one is about collaboration. At Foretellix, we believe in collaboration. I think that is the key, that all of the different players will speak at the same language. We have developed an open source scenario description language to allow the different OEMs, tier ones, regulators, and others be able to describe road scenarios in one unified human readable language. And we believe this is one key element that will help the industry evolve into something that is more collaborative and help with this effort.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as VizibleZone is concerned, a standard would probably help you to...
Yeah, so of course, yeah, standard is very important. And we are always looking for the standards on the automotive industry when we are delivering our solution. But actually, we are trying, like, as I've said, to find a new approach to move faster and to focus on software solutions which can be deployed to the market and be updated relatively soon. So we are trying to find the right method as well, as was just mentioned here. What is the right way to launch a software update to all the pedestrians and vehicles out there? And regulation is very important and standards are very important, but we have to be very active in terms of trying to make an impact on the standards.
Mm-hmm. Jim?
So if you look at the stack of technology, autonomy technology, there's perception and prediction and planning. Perception is, in many respects, a solved theoretical problem. We have to productize it and make it affordable and economical. The prediction problem, which Shmulik had mentioned, that is not a solved problem. Cars are social, and we interact with pedestrians and bicyclists. I ride my bike to work most days, and I have to negotiate with cars all the time and other bicyclists. There's this seemingly automatic behavior that we do. We project ourselves into the minds of everyone else on the road when we're on the road. We anticipate what the other driver will do. There's subtle cues, and how do we teach machines to do that? And we don't know yet. We've made some investments in the area of trying to understand human behavior and the social interaction that happens in roads. And that has to happen, and we have to productize those solutions in order to have comfort that we can put these machines on the road without humans, and they'll understand how, when people will jaywalk, when they won't, when they're going to cut you off, and when they won't. It's a very difficult problem.
We're just about to go over time, but maybe for our OEMs, tier ones, and the VCs, where do you think are the biggest opportunities for startups in this field right now? Kind of maybe they're probably not greenfield opportunities, but where can startups really help to push the envelope here?
From a tier one perspective, as I mentioned earlier, all these different areas of technology. When you want to integrate it, you have to be good in each and single area. And not only good, you have to be world class. And this is really difficult because budget and talents and so on, it's not endless. And therefore, these small companies, when they are concentrated and doing just one technology for one focus, for one application, this helps them to go with a quite higher speed than others can. So this is a big opportunity for startups to get integrated in a bigger portfolio of technology.
All right. Mikael?
The wrong one.
Well, from my point of view, I think that startups don't have a legacy. We have. And the tier ones has a legacy. And for me, if we want to really, truly change and affect autonomous driving, we need to change the way we do business, the way we operate our business. And that's where I think the startup has all the opportunities to teach the industry and disrupt it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a famous race car driver, Rick Mears, who said, to finish first, you must first finish. Startups have to first finish. They have to survive. And they survive by not relying only on investor dollars. And we always look for companies that are bringing great technology to a service or product that they could sell relatively quickly within a few years, because then they can chart their own destiny. If they're waiting for investors to kind of carry them over the line, that's a fool's errand. You have to control as much of your destiny as possible, and you do that by satisfying customers more than investors.
And there we are right away at the next risk I see. I got a lot of contacts from companies, small companies, that say, we are working on level 5 only, level 5 and level 4 and level 3, and that's for the others. And there's a big risk because a level 2 or lower level, that's reality now. That's really mass market now, especially for the tier ones. This is where we are living from. Level 2 plus, level 3 is the next one, where we will live very soon from. And I'm afraid that some of the startups who pretend or companies, pretend we are working only in level 5, they will run out of money. They will run out of time. They have to create a cash flow to survive up to level 5 is really necessary. And it should not only be a dream, even if it is less, I would say less sexy to work on level 2, but this gives us the cash flow to survive. Yeah, okay, from this perspective, yeah.
It always comes down to cash in the end. Well, it's all the time we have, I'm afraid, so let's give a hand to our panelists. Thank you, guys. Thank you.